Have you ever gotten to a point where you were so dedicated into reaching a certain goal, but whenever you got so close to that goal, something, every time there was just something that made you go back to square one? That's self sabotage. And in this video today, that's what we'll be talking about and how it's the downfall of 78% of agency owners and it's the downfall of 59% of people out there in the world and how you can actually solve that issue. So let's jump into this video. Self sabotage. This happens to most entrepreneurs and agency owners. Their mind doesn't allow them to achieve what they're trying to get. It's either two things: the fear of success or the fear of failure. Right now, I want you to answer this one question as well as in the comments. Does achieving your goal make you afraid? Let me know down in the comments section below and I'll answer your question, right? And maybe, you know, getting your goal out there will make it come to life, right? There's a saying about that. I just don't remember the saying. But anyway, my mentor has a saying I fell in love with. You don't have a business problem, you have a personal problem that is reflecting in your business, right? Because if one part of your business, if there's an issue in one part of your personal life, then there'll be an issue in your business, right? If your if your mind is angry about something that happened yesterday while you were at the mall, most likely when you enter into your business the next day and that thought is still in your head, then while you're walking around and talking, or while you're communicating with your clients or communicating with your team, right, you're most likely going to use different words than you would if you were calm, right? And most likely those words will end up causing a shift to happen in your client's mind, where your clients would be like, you know what, I don't want to work with someone who has a personality like this. And they just end up leaving, right? Or with your team members who thought you meant this and they do that and find out only once they've made you lose two or three clients that, oh no, they didn't understand, like they misinterpreted what I said, right? And most likely, I always say this, is that when your VA has an issue, it's most likely because you just didn't communicate something properly enough to them. And you're the one who has to go to them and say, hey, I'm sorry, I must not have communicated um I must not have communicated that task to you properly. Then you just go ahead and communicate that task in a different way for them to understand, right? SOPs, the creation of SOPs. I might consider making a video on SOPs on Asana, which is completely free. Asana. If you want to see that video on Asana, then just hit the subscribe button. There's a red icon right there. Uh, Hit the little bell icon so you'll also be notified of when I do release that video. Or if you want a different sort of video on a different topic related to SMMA or business or systems, I'd prefer if it was about systems. But anyway, just throw it down in the comment section below and I'll answer your question and consider having you like answering your question in video form as one of my videos. My story with self sabotage. Now, if you're a subscriber to my channel or if you've just watched all my videos, right, then you'd know that my sleeping schedule is I wake up at 4:30 a.m. and sleep at 10 p.m., right? Then I meditate before I go to sleep and meditate as soon as I wake up, right? And there's like in my first couple weeks of creating this uh schedule, right, is I would tend to like when 9 p.m. hit, right, because I switch off all my at 9 p.m. I switch off all my electronics, right, so I can have 1 hour of no electronics, which would also like assist in the sleeping process, as well as the fact that I have a blue light filter that activates on both my phone and uh, laptop and computer screens at 6 p.m. So from 6 p.m. until 6:30 a.m. the next day, my screen has a blue light filter on it. The app is called. I think I'll write it down here what the app is called. I forgot, but anyway, uh, yeah. So I wake up at like 4:30 a.m. right from Alarmy, which is my alarm app that I use, and I'll go ahead and I'll solve the riddle, solve the problem, and I'll literally put the phone down, go to sleep, or like literally just switch my phone off so that Alarmy doesn't wake me up again because I have wake up check activated, and then I'd go to sleep and be like, you know what? I don't really have to wake up so early. I'll wake up at 6 a.m. And then I wake up, I look at the time, and it's 7:30 a.m. And that's 4 hours. Wait, 6, 7. Yeah, that's around that's around 3 hours of my day wasted on doing something unproductive just because a part of me made me not do what I was supposed to do, right? Like, it's sort of a situation where you know what you're supposed to do, but you still choose not to do it because the pleasure in doing it far surpasses the pain in having to do it, right? And this is the cycle of sabotage, right? Is where you get to the high point, which is where you're about to reach success, right? Or you have reached it, right? For most people, it's a certain balance in their bank account, right? Which is what has been said and what has been experimented on, right? Is it's a certain balance in your bank account, right? So maybe for you, it could be like maybe once your bank account has $5,000 in it, you start going to clubs or buying jewelry, Gucci, all these clothes, all the way until you end up at the bottom with nothing but a few dollars in your bank account, and then you'll be like, damn, I have to make money. Then you work so hard and start saving money until you end up with 5,000 in your bank account again, only for you to do the exact same thing and start the process again and again and again and again, right? This is nothing more than a vicious loophole of your limits that you have set in your mind, and I'll be showing you how to go ahead and solve this and break out of this issue, right? Because right here that you are growing, right? Like, this is what's happening. This this you see you're slightly going up, right? So maybe when your first high is $5,000, then you fall back to $100, and then the next time it's 5,500, and you fall down to 200, right? And that's what happens, right? And you might be growing, but it's an incredibly slow at a slow rate, right? Whereas with someone who was dedicated, knew what they had the correct mindset in place, their psychology was on point, like, so they meditate. They've read Psycho Cybernetics, which is a great book, which I personally, and I think everybody suggests that you read it, right? If you haven't read it, then I suggest you read it because you're doing yourself a disservice without reading it. But anyway, for a person who's read Psycho Cybernetics, who meditates, who has affirmations that they read in the morning and at night before they go to sleep, a person who does something like that, with them, and they're also disciplined, they also have to be disciplined, right? All of those things are useless without the correct discipline in place. A person like that is most likely to experience a curve that's something like this, right? That uses the compound of time and effort to grow exponentially, right? While you're just growing like this, right? So what they can achieve in 6 years, you'll only be able to achieve that in like 30 years, right? Because you're not putting as much effort and consistent effort, and your mind is also hindering you from actually achieving that sort of success, right? So people go up only to go back down. It might not be you falling 100% to the start point, but it'll make you fall 83% down until you grow and fall 83% down again. That's how most people live. Instead of you just fluctuating, you could draw a straight line to success. Achieving what will take you 20 years, you could just do that in 6 months of discipline and having the correct mindsets in place, right? So now the solutions. How do you end up being able to draw a straight line and actually achieve what you want in 6 months or less? Well, you have to put yourself in the mindset that you will succeed. This is something all self help gurus tell you. I'm not saying this will make you successful by doing this, it will just ensure that it removes all the negative pulls that would make you tell yourself, what's the point of waking up, right? Because energy is still energy, right? Even if you have that negative energy in you, you could change that energy into something else, right? Your mind can't multitask. So if you're constantly telling yourself all these positive emotions and always thinking about positive things and you actually succeeding, well, that means that you're not giving your mind any break to be like, okay, what if it doesn't work, right? Like, okay, I understand you saying I will succeed, but what if I don't succeed, right? You don't want to give your brain any time to go ahead and ask a question like that, right? That's why you always got to constantly be reaffirming to yourself, putting nothing but good thoughts in your mind and thoughts of you actually succeeding and breaking past your barriers and limits, right? So face this head on. Don't try avoid it or ignore it. This thing is in you, eating away at you like a virus, right? It slowly eats at you, and you might not realize it in the first couple of weeks or months, even years, but sooner or later you'll realize it, and once you do, you'll be filled with nothing more than regret. And there is no worse feeling than the feeling of regret, right? Your brain will stop you from achieving any goal it feels you can't. This is why entering the right mindset is so important, because if your brain is fixated on the fact that, look, you can't achieve that, then I'm 1,000% sure and I'm guaranteeing you that you will not achieve it, right? You can't fight against your brain. You have to have your brain work with you, not against you, because in a fight between you and your brain will always win 100% of the time, right? So some more action tips you can take is take failure as feedback. If you believe you are a failure, you will constantly search for things to justify that you are a failure, like how you think of a specific watch or clothes or shoes. And then you see that watch, clothes, shoe everywhere you go, right? So for me, I might see a specific watch I like, and now all of a sudden I see it on Netflix, I see it on people's wrist while I'm walking around, I see it in stores, etc. Right? And another thing is all your judgment, hate, and fear is nothing more than a reflection of your thought patterns, right? Example, if you don't like people that lie, that means you're an honest guy. And if you aren't, that would make you a hypocrite, because that means that your judgment, hate, and fears are fabricated, and they're not something you truly believe in, right? Because if you truly believe in the judgments that you have, the hate that you have, and the fear that you have, that would define who you are, right? So if you don't like people that lie, that must mean that you're an honest person. right? And the hot iron and ice experiment. Now, I learned, I read about this like I think three, three, 3 or 4 weeks ago. But anyway, so this is an experiment made in the 1970s, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1976. I'm not sure, but basically it was where scientists they were trying to figure out how strong the mind is and the power of the mind over the body. So they had a person like sit down on a chair without his t-shirt, and then they brought a hot coal, right? They held a hot coal, and they showed it to him like before they showed him the hot coal and say, hey, you see this hot coal? He says yes. Okay. Then they blindfolded him. Then they brought the hot coal closer to his skin, his back skin. They were like, can you feel the heat? Can you feel it getting closer? And he's like, yes, I can feel it getting closer. Then they'd be like, okay. And they'd pull it away, like draw it away from his skin. And then be like, can you feel it going further away in your skin getting cooler? And he'd be like, yes, I do feel it. And then they dropped the ice, not the ice, the iron, right? And they picked up the ice instead. And they did the exact same thing. They said, can you feel the coal getting closer? Even though it wasn't a coal, it was an ice cube. And he said, yes, I can feel it getting closer, because most likely he was feeling the steam of the ice cube, right? And then as soon as they took it and they pushed it on his back, he screamed because he felt the coldness, but to him it wasn't coldness because his mind had assumed that it's the actual coal. I mean, number one, he had seen the coal, and number two, he had felt the coal on his back, like coming closer and going further away and coming closer again, only to touch his skin. So his mind was 100% sure, and his mind believed that, look, this is a coal, this is iron that has now touched my skin, and his skin literally blistered from the ice because his mind was fixated on that feeling being caused by an iron, right? Hot iron. So that is the power of your mind, and that's why I truly believe that you can't fight against your mind, because the battle between you and your mind would always come up on top, right? If you haven't subscribed to this channel, then click this button right here. Subscribe, join the family, but more importantly, subscribe so that you can finally take that next step in elevating your SMMA and business. Click this video, watch it, enjoy it, tell me what you think. Until I see you guys in a minute. Thank you, Adara.